Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we're broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio or at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot and so much more. We have another awesome show for you tonight. Welcome to After Hours. It is Saturday. We are getting the weekend started off right. We have 2 days of great shows going on for you. Tonight we have Debz Shakti Buller. We're going to be getting into some channeling, some quantum hypnotherapy, some of the things that she's into. So it should be a pretty awesome show. Can't wait till we get into that. And then later on tonight, I don't know, who knows? We'll see exactly what we decide to do here for hour 3. But what I want to do is just say welcome to everybody. I'm totally glad that we're here. We're able to sit here with each other on this weekend and put in another effort for the After Hours, for the overall Spaced Out Radio umbrella. It is so awesome to be able to be here with you guys tonight. So let me go ahead and jump in to the chat. Let me fix my microphone and then jump into the chat so we can see who came in first tonight. Drum roll, please. Drum roll, please. Let me go ahead and jump in and see who we got. So tonight we are looking at Wu Train Riders DG. Hello, am I first? Looks like you are. So Wu Train Riders DG takes home the gold for the night. We got Race Fan right behind Wu Train Riders DG. Race Fan saying good evening, Rob. Race Fan gets that silver. And we have Susan A. from Australia. Welcome, Susan A. Team notification on. Thank you very much. And I think, for a lot of the people that might be new, if you have not had a chance to go ahead and hit that notification bell, definitely do so, because we go 7 days a week here at Spaced Out Radio, bringing you some awesome content with awesome guests. And we will be jumping in, taking a look at what happened this week at Spaced Out Radio in just a moment. But let's go ahead and make sure we got everybody in the building. Let's see. We have Lightwalkers. Hello, Woo friends and Debs. All right, Lightwalkers, thank you for coming on in. We got Severin Shot. Hey, everyone. You seem like a new name, Severin Shot. I always like to point that out because I think it's awesome. Anytime we get a new name, we just love to welcome you into the Spaced Out Radio family, the umbrella, and we would love to see you back. So thanks for coming in. We have Susan Alloway. Yay, it's Debs tonight. Yes, it is. It is Debz Shakti tonight. It is going to be awesome. We're going to be talking about some stuff. I'm going to be learning some stuff. I always do, when I get a chance to talk to all the different people in this field, they cover different things. And I think it's a big thing for me, with my experience. We'll go into that a little bit later. Don't worry about it. We got Flat 6 coming on in saying, I'm one of the first 10 passengers on the Woo train tonight. All right. Well, we're going to get ready to be taking off shortly here. So thank you for coming on in. We do appreciate you. We have Dino Bravo fan saying, hey, y'all. Thank you for coming in, Dino Bravo fan. Do appreciate you. We have Road Flare. Hi, guys. Hi, Road Flare. Thank you for coming in. We have Lisa C. Hi, Dave and SOR gang. Well, Dave is not in tonight. He might be watching, though. So shout out to Dave Scott and the SOR gang. Let's see. Who do we have? We have Roger Murray bringing some more information for us. January 23rd, 1974 to 2024, 50th anniversary Welsh Roswell crash, Berwyn Mountain UFO. I heard of that. The Berwyn, UFO incident, Leandro Marion, Wales, object recovery, British military crash, earthquake. All right, do appreciate you, Roger Berry, always bringing in some good data. We got Nicola Perry Jr., greetings and salutations, space traveler. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming in, Nicola. We do appreciate you joining us tonight. We have Jennifer Patterson. Hi, SOR family. I'm excited for tonight's show. Welcome in, everyone. Well, I'm glad that you are excited, Jennifer Patterson. I am excited, too. Should be a great show. I really can't wait to get into it tonight. So thank you for coming in. We do have Tamothman. We have a Tamothman sighting. Thank you for coming in, Tamothman, saying, hey, Jennifer Patterson. We have Amy WC. Thank you for coming, Amy WC. No happy people allowed in this forum. LOL. So that's all we got. We got a lot of great people in this community, which is why I think we end up always seeing new faces. I think it has a lot to do with you guys out there being an awesome community. A lot of great minds out there, and a lot of great conversations that happen in these chats. I know because I'm always in the chat, even when I'm not supposed to. I should be doing something else, sleeping, but can't help but be in the chat with you guys, man. So who else do we have? We have Carl Bittner saying, howdy there, Rob, and all of you spacey after hours spaced out peeps. I love it when Carl Bittner comes through and drops some of that on us here. We have, who else do we have here? Just scrolling through. Jimmy Gonzalez saying, hello, everyone. Hello, Jimmy Gonzalez. Thank you so much for coming in and joining us. Let's see here. We have, going down the list here, just looking for some new names, and I don't see any yet. So we're almost down here. We do have Miss Catherine Jones joining us, though. Thank you for coming on in. Hey, everybody, says Catherine. Hey, thank you for coming in tonight. We have Lil Cam 5-1, Packers Chiefs Super Bowl. I'm calling it. I'm a Cowboys fan, so you already know where I'm at. You already know where my head is at. It's not in a good place, but that's okay. Used to it by now, right? We'll move on. Let's see. We do have Stargazer 4, 6, and 2. I'm ready to space out. All right. When you come to the right place, Stargazer, you already know what happens here. You know how it happens and all the goings-ons here at Spaced Out Radio. So let's go ahead and welcome in Paula Foss. Paula Foss saying hello. Hello, Paula Foss. Thank you for joining us. We do have the Ferret saying greetings. Greetings right back to you, Ferret. Thank you for joining us tonight. We do have my guy, Drew Banky, Eagles Nest Podcast, saying, what up, brother? What up, Drew Banky? Got to have you back soon. We'll talk. Let's set it up. Drew Banky is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. We do have Angela Ellison. Hi, I'm new. Hi. Well, let's stop for a minute. Everybody, please give a warm welcome for Angela Ellison, saying she's new. She's joining us for the first time. Please make her feel comfortable tonight. And I hope that you enjoy the show. It should be an awesome show for you, Angela. We would love for you, if you haven't already, which you may have, I may be jumping the gun here, but if you haven't, go ahead and consider hitting that subscribe button and then the notification bell. Way it goes around here is we do this after hour show Saturdays and Sundays, running from 8 p.m. Pacific to 11 p.m. Pacific. And then we have Mr. Dave Scott, the conductor of this Woo Train, who takes over duties Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight. So 7 days a week, Angela, is what we're doing here. And you can always find something going on here. Welcome. We do appreciate you coming on in. Everybody, welcome Angela in with warm arms. And I know you will. I'm not really worried about it. We do have Ange in the building saying, hey, Rob G, to Maltman, Catherine Jones, Paranormal Pixie, Debs, Race Fan, Susan Alloway, and all the SRians. I didn't see Pixie yet, but I'm sure we'll get to her name. Thanks for coming in, Ange. It's so many names that I never want to miss anyone, but I want to say Angela Ellison in case I missed you. Thank you for coming on in. We do appreciate you coming in. Yes. On my list, Drew, got you, and I will be doing that, sir. Thank you very much. And let's see here. We do have a Kira I Am sighting. Kira I Am. Hello, all you space travelers and Rob G at Spaced Out Radio. Woo-hoo! That's what I'm talking about. Let's get it going, Kira. Let's get it going. Got my coffee sitting right over here. I haven't got a chance to sip yet, but I will be sipping throughout the show tonight. And let's see. Who else do we have here? Super Knower. Hello, SOR friends. Thank you for coming in, Super Knower. And then this is my guy. Still waiting for this guy to build the time machine. And don't go with the clock jokes, the watch jokes, Magneticus. We need the flux capacitor ASAP. So let's go ahead and get that done. Let's see. Thanks for coming in, though, Magneticus, as well. We do have Dragonfly. Evening SOR family. Thank you for coming on in. We do have Kelly Lewis. Seems like a new name. If it is, Kelly, thank you for joining us tonight. We do appreciate you. Everybody give Kelly a warm welcome and show her around the place. Thank you very much for coming in. We do have Doug Shelby. Old Frozen, Central Missouri, Deadhead Hippie, reporting for listening duty, Captain Rob G. Doug Shelby, welcome to the building, sir. Welcome. Thank you for reporting for duty, sir. And we do appreciate you coming on in. Thank you very much, sir. Let's see. So we're almost down to our end here, where we can then get into the show. Vaughn. Let's see. Vaughn. Hi, to Mothman and Kira. Hi, Vaughn. Thanks for coming on in. We do appreciate you coming in. Okay, there we go. Facebook user. We do have a Facebook user sighting saying good evening. Good evening, Facebook user. Thank you for joining us. We definitely appreciate you coming in. Let's see. Okay, we're literally almost done here. We do have Lighting the Dark remote viewing. Thank you so much for coming in. We do appreciate you. Thanks for joining us. If it's your first time, welcome. And we have a lot of great people in the chat that will make you feel welcome and show you around this place. So thanks for joining us. And there she is, Paranormal Pixie Laura. I want to make sure that I bring you up here. Thank you for coming on in. And thank you, Paranormal, for for handling a lot of the wrench duties over the holiday when we had our SOR archives playing during the holiday. You were definitely there and you were using your wrench to the best of your ability. So I do appreciate you, Pixie. I want to let you know that from me to you. So welcome and thank you very much for coming in. And let's see. Okay, Quantum Momentum. I like that. Thank you very much for coming in, Quantum Momentum. I do appreciate you coming in. And Corey Cole. What up, fellow maniacs? What up, Corey Cole? Thank you very much for coming on in. We are sort of maniacs over here. Do appreciate you coming in, too. Let's see. Brian C. Hi, people. Hi, Brian C. Thank you for coming in. We have Nancy Thames. Thank you, Nancy. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you back here, Nancy. Thanks for coming in tonight. Let's see here. Boo, boo, boo. Mystics Walk. Howdy, y'all. Thank you for coming in, Mystics Walk. I do appreciate you joining us tonight. And that looks like we're pretty much caught up. So what we're going to do, as we do every single week here, every Saturday, I should say, that we have a show, we are going to go ahead and jump in our Spaced Out Radio time machine. Look back at the week that was Spaced Out Radio with your guy, Dave Scott. We had a lot of great guests this week. And that's why I want to actually talk about this too for a second. This is the reason why we do this segment, because not everybody, I know a lot of you are loyal Spaced Out Radio viewers. And so a lot of you have not missed a single day. So to some of you, the SOR Weekly Review seems like, hey, we just watched these shows. But there are certain viewers that can only either view mainly Monday through Friday, and then they take the weekends away, so they miss after hours, which I really hate because I would love them to be here. Then you have some that are just here and there, right? Catch every other day, or maybe they don't have time until the weekend. So after hours is where they get the fix, and they don't realize what has actually happened here during the week here at Spaced Out Radio. So that is why we do it. And I just wanted to make sure that because some people question, like, hey, we, and the loyal ones, I know you've seen these episodes, but I think this will really resonate with people who may have missed one of these guests, and they get to jump back into the Spaced Out Radio archives, which are totally free right here at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. So without further ado, let me go ahead and jump in the time machine. Once again, we're going to hop in time and go back and take a look at the week that was Spaced Out Radio. And here we go.
Okay, so here's one of the things that I remember from when we first started talking years ago. Is Spirit told you had 11 books to write before your time on this planet is over.
Correct.
You are now in your 80s. You're on book number 11 now.
Yes.
Doesn't this scare you?
Not at all. Not at all. I can honestly sit here and tell you, I do not fear death. I mean, I got a lot of things I want to do yet, but I have such an understanding of what's on the other side that I have no fear of it. I mean, I really don't. When I was having the heart attack and I really had a pretty good chance to depart, I had no fear of it. It's out of my hands. I mean, it's something we're all going to face, and I simply know what's over there. I mean, I've talked to so many different spirits, so many holy spirits, so many angels. I've seen angels. I've seen a bunch of angels. I know they're very real. I mean, I've talked to all my family members, my father, my mother, all my departed family, my friends that have passed. I've talked to them, and they're all at ease. They're all in this wonderful place. And I'm doing what they sent me back to do, and I have no fear of it. I mean, I was going to tell you the story of me seeing an alien.
Right.
we were in our apartment in Pennsylvania, and I was writing the 2 alien books, Aliens Among Us and Spirits Speak of the Universe. And while we were doing it, I was channeling an alien. His name was Moo, and he came in, introduced himself, said that they wanted to have books written because of the disclosure that was coming, and that he would give me the information and he'd be with us 2 to 3 years. But then he would leave because he had another mission he had to go on. So we channeled Moo for over 2 years.
And what's the US going to do? No, we want to keep our secrets, right? Which, for national security professionals is probably the right thing to do. You probably don't want to share the stuff with the Chinese or the Russians, but still, it would be a massive destabilizing. It would not massive, but it would have a destabilizing effect on Western populations. Wouldn't result in overthrow of governments, but it will just further undermine the authority of the people who are occupying positions of power.
Yeah, and I can see that. I mean, is it about ET contact? Is it about the technology and the new revolution that could come along with that? I mean, what do you think would cause this to happen, or for this story to truly explode?
In terms of to actually have the government come out and disclose.
Yes.
So I think if there's some agreement way back when that a former U.S. presidential official, let's just take the Eisenhower allegations at Holloman Air Force Base. Let's say that's true. I don't know if it's true. I have no way of independently validating, but let's assume it's true. Let's say they had some agreement and the ETs wanted to disclose, and Eisenhower said, look, we just fought a near genocidal war with the Germans and the Japanese, and then we're facing the prospect of global nuclear annihilation with the Soviets. Give us some time to acclimate the population, based on the response from the 1938 radio broadcast of War of the Worlds. We don't want to sow mass panic. We don't want to undermine religions. Give us some time, and then let's say they agree on a date, 50 years after Roswell. So that places you at like 2026, 2027. And what might be happening is this agreement lit a fire under the collective governments of the West to prepare for it and prepare the population for it. So that could be what we're seeing in terms of this, push for disclosure.
Very interesting. I mean, it's something that you have to be able to be prepared for. Have you ever had locations where you've had nauseousness or sickness or headaches?
I gotta say, Witch's Cabin, that one really affected me really, really bad. The witch that haunts that place did not like me at all. We investigated there, 3 times? I went there the first time. I could not sleep there because I felt like she was gonna give me a heart attack. So I left. The second time, the girls investigated there. And even when I wasn't even there, the witch was calling out my name in the spirit box. And then they convinced me to go back the third time, and I was vomiting. We had a psychic with us at the time, and she said she saw me going downstairs where all the activity was happening downstairs. I did not go downstairs, so this witch was mimicking me.
Wow,
and
that's fine.
I got really, really affected bad in that cabin.
Where is that cabinet located?
It's in Crestline.
Crestline. Okay. And what's the history on it? That sounds like one that I'd want to be all over.
Oh, you definitely got to check it out.
So the history about this cabin is that back in the day, this woman, she wanted to buy that property, but she didn't have enough money. And I guess the person who bought it was a man, and she was just so angry and mad that she didn't get this place. She put a curse on the house. She put a curse, and that man actually died. He died from carbon monoxide poisoning. And every owner after that who was a male died, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they died. So she does not like men at all.
I want to ask you, because you've delved into these subjects and your team is delved in as well. How do you explain these people who vanish and then reappear?
I think there's some kind of rift in the fabric of time and space there. I interviewed a lady one time several years ago that had gone missing and came back, and she likened it to two pieces of silk, and where you can see through it, and then when they're both together, you can see through both of them, and then they part back, and that's probably a very strange way to describe it, but it kind of makes sense that sometimes when the very fabric of space and time kind of meld together, you can be in another place or in an alternate dimension. And then when the fabric separates, then there you are. And I've also heard it described as like, say, if you took an old paper map, you could fold that map and make the distance between two places shorter by folding it together. I've heard that description too, that somehow it's like the distance is either lengthened or shortened between places. I've had people that had experiences like that while they were driving, that lost time or lost space, actually, where they got to somewhere much faster than it should have taken them to get there, or it took much, much longer to drive from point A to point B. I had that happen to me once in Las Vegas. I'd been out on the east side of Vegas. I lived on the west side. I was coming back home, and I drove and I drove and I drove and I drove. From the center strip, it should have taken me maybe 15 minutes to get up to my turn to go to my neighborhood. But it seemed like I drove for probably a half hour, 45 minutes. And I'm thinking, I'm going to be out to Blue Diamond here in a minute. I have no idea where I'm at. And then suddenly things looked familiar again, and there was my turn. But it never took that long before or after that. So what happens out there? I think there's things that happen that we don't understand. I've heard other people talk about that when walking a distance. I know of examples of people that maybe went up to the corner store, and when they came back, they suddenly found themselves several blocks away from home, knowing that they hadn't walked there.
It is a challenge, and very few people are actually wanting to take on that challenge to find out, their past lives. You mentioned that you had past lives previous that you recall from Egypt and other places, and even planets way off in the stars. I mean, how do you know that just isn't lucid dreaming or imagination, that you were there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I am my own biggest skeptic. I don't like to assume when I have an experience that it is legitimate. I'm very cautious of that. Um, there was a lot of corroborating evidence to me that came forward, and a lot of validation from other research and hearing other experiences that were similar to that. I mean, when the memory I had of another world was something that, I mean, like I said, I don't even remember a time that memory actually just came forward. It's something that I just, as long as I could remember anything, it was there. And, it was just a very vivid image of, I was sitting in almost like a hot tub, hot springs kind of thing, and looking out at this vast landscape. And it was darker than you would think, but it was kind of almost like this UV light, like a very different kind of sun. I would think now. I didn't have that conscious thought at the time, but it was just this very different looking world. And seeing this vast landscape of this kind of bioluminescence vegetation and things. And it was something that I had nothing came forward that is like, oh, well, I could have gotten this from a show or something like that. It wasn't until later in life. I think I even remember watching, the movie Avatar and seeing, it wasn't exactly the same, but seeing that and just being like, that's so strikingly similar. And then, yeah, when it was just a lot of research too, remembering my past life that I had in Egypt. Like I said, in middle school, we were learning about, well, here's the pyramids, and here are these what we called sarcophaguses in the pyramids, and this is what they were burials for kings and things like that. And I just instinctively didn't think that was true, because what I remembered was being kind of like a shamanic person that would bring you in, and there was some kind of, I would say almost like an ayahuasca or something like that, some kind of mixture that was given to the person, and they would lay down in this bed, what we would say now is, oh, that was a sarcophagus, but there's no bodies there, there's no mummies there. What it actually was, from my memory, was that was where they would lay, because I understood it. And I was in middle school, and I understood the way that the pyramids were used as kind of an electronic device and things like that. And I just had all this stuff that I just knew. And it was, I've had people ask, well, how do you know that that's a memory? And it's like, how do you remember your third or your fifth birthday or something? How can you tell me that that's a memory? Because it's just something that felt so real. It's hard to decipher what's reality sometimes. But as I got older and I researched more and more about that, and now that things, with the internet and things, everybody kind of coming into this stuff more easily, there was more information that I was able to kind of corroborate some of what I had experienced with factual information that was out there.
New York Post writer, journalist Stephen Greenstreet got under your fingernails as well.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Last night, I was in my research group with all the, you used to be in there with all the Timothy Top people, they're all posting all the fresh stuff and commentary and analysis on things. And our Australian friend posts a Twitter update about the Pentagon and the Pentagon's response to essentially like Jeremy Corbell's leaking of these tapes, and how it's smacking on the illegality of it, and that they take illegality of leaked content seriously. And so that last night caused a bunch of commentary about why he's calling himself an investigative journalist, and the reason why might be strategic in order to protect him if the Pentagon comes after him, because he's basically saying he's a journalist and protected underneath journalism laws.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting, because
Yeah.
in that group there are very few journalists. Very few.
There's a couple. There's the Australian journalists that we both know. And then there's a couple other journalists who aren't like seriously affiliated with news stations, but they're definitely journalists. They write articles about UAPs and blogs and stuff. But yeah, I guess you're right. There's not that many journalists in that group when I think about it. Yeah, well, and then it prompted this whole discussion about, because I basically said, me, I throw the mauve cocktail in there, and I was like, boy, I hope Jeremy Corbell has a good lawyer. And so this one person come back and is like, well, he organized a whole hearing, so he must have. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? When Edgar Snowden came out, what's his name? Edward Snowden. He came out and he leaked, all this information from the CIA about, PRISM and whatever. He was going to go to jail. And so the point was made that the Pentagon must be giving Jeremy Corbell these leaked files and must be somewhat okay with it, because they wouldn't make claims of illegality and not try him and not come after him.
All right. Here we go. We're going to jump back into the present day. Thank you very much for kicking back and watching the SOR Weekly Review. I think it's very important because we do have a lot of people that don't get to see every show. And we're all about making sure that, we put a lot of work into these shows. So for the ones to go unnoticed, it's a lot of work that kind of just goes unnoticed, right? And so that's what we do. We promote the week show. Week show promotes the weekend show. And it's just the all circulating thing that we do here. So coming back in, we're going to go ahead and get ready to actually jump into the main part of the show and bring in our guest. We do have Debz Shakti. So I want to kind of bring her in with this. Debz Shakti is a professional quantum hypnotherapist and open channel offering other professional PSI services, including Energy Alchemy, ET Contact, and Paranormal Experience Counseling. So I think these are a lot of topics. Actually, we could sure talk for hours on this. We're going to go ahead and get into some of these things, but let me go ahead and bring in our guest for tonight, Debz Shakti, and here she is. Hey, Deb, how are you today?
I'm great, Rob. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on tonight. Wow, what a great week's worth of shows too. It was pretty phenomenal this week. So
yeah, you're right, and I do appreciate you coming in, Debs. We kind of crossed paths. You know, I put some things, and we'll get into this later. I put out some things I'm hoping to do this year, and I know you responded to that, and we should definitely talk about that a little later. But bringing you in, anytime, and this is the thing for me, anytime I have a guest for the first time, I always want to begin the conversation with kind of what ended up leading you to doing what you're doing now. Did you have any experiences as a child? What kind of brought you into this ufology field and what it is that you specialize in today?
Yeah, well, I was born this way, to quote Lady Gaga. From earliest memory, I was always able to perceive and interact with beings on other frequencies, other dimensions, however you would like to say that. I've always been able to perceive energy and do things with energy. I've always been really psychic. I have all the psychic gifts. I came in with them all turned on. But the weird thing about it is that I thought everybody lived that way. You know, when you're a little kid, you take everything from your perspective. You know, really egocentric when we're little. And so it wasn't until I started getting, you know, in a lot of trouble for talking about the things that were happening in my life, especially when I started going to parochial school when I was a kid. I was raised, you know, in a pretty religious family, and that didn't jibe, you know, talking about, you know, my other family that lived in my house. But, you know, the nuns at my school thought, gosh, what are my parents into, you know? And my parents had no idea other than they thought I was just making up creative stories. But yeah, one of the earliest memories, loose memories that I have is I was probably 2.5, 3 years old. And my mom had put me to bed. And we lived in California, and in my bedroom, just like a lot of the little cool new houses back in the 50s, my one wall that faced the backyard was completely glass. And my favorite tree was out there. And I was almost falling asleep, and I heard this tap, tap, tap on the glass and looked, and there were all these little creatures in the trees. And they were begging me to come out. They were saying, come out and play with us. But they weren't using their mouths, you know. And as a little kid, I didn't question that. And I can remember running into my mom's room and saying, Mom, the little space monkeys want me to come outside and play. May I go outside and play? Because I was a really good kid. I was raised that way. And bear in mind, I didn't know anything about space. I probably had never heard the term yet. And I don't know that I knew anything about monkeys by that time either. I was, barely a toddler. And my mom said, oh, honey, you're having a dream. Let's go back to bed. She put me back to bed, told me to go to sleep. She looked out the window, of course, didn't see anything, and assured me everything was okay. And so this went on several times in the night until my poor mom, who was pregnant with her third child already, she got really upset and just, you know, she got very stern, and she said, listen, I don't ever want to hear you speak about those space monkeys again. Never. Or you're going to get a spanking. And that's all it took. You know, I didn't want to talk about that anymore. But I continued to have interactions with them. And of course, many years later, I realized, you know, once I got into finding out other people were having experiences and talking about them, they were the little grays. You know, they were little beings, big heads, big eyes, long limbs, and they were the grays. So that was my very first memory. But, you know, I've been many times in amazing ships, crafts. I can't even tell you what they were. Just moved from one dimension to another. I can do that now, volitionally. I teach out-of-body experience and astral travel as one of my subjects that I teach. But yeah, my whole life I had this, and what I found once I realized other people were having these experiences, and this was in my 20s, early 20s, is that most people were very afraid. And they were also afraid of our culture, just like I was chastised for talking about it. They were being chastised, and they didn't want to, flunk school. They didn't want to lose their job. They didn't want to get divorced. And so parallel to that, I was a very inquisitive kid, and I liked studying the sciences and everything. So I came up studying biology and, chemistry and physics and all that, and all the math. And then, when quantum physics came out, boom, everything started making sense. So, but when I went to college, I decided to study clinical psychology because I thought it would help me help other people who were traumatized by these things. And not just these things, I just saw trauma everywhere. And people would come to me and just ask for me to, hug them or something. Even as a little kid, they realized I could help balance their energy, although I don't think they thought that. They just said, she can heal you. Or they'd bring their puppy to me that was sick and have me sit with it, and it would get better. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to go into that field and help people and counsel people. So over the years, as this subject became more mainstream, especially after the internet came out, floods of people started coming and asking for help in understanding these experiences, these encounters. And I think people feel comfortable talking to me about their stuff. And I think they also feel good about it just because I've had countless encounters myself. And so I can, I have a good rapport with them. But, so we put psychology, we put quantum physics. Lately, the last couple of years, I've been taking advanced coursework in neuroscience. And I just love putting all these things together to help people understand, life. And it helps me understand life too. And it feels good to help. So.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I kind of wanted to get into that a little bit because the quantum hypnotherapy, I know you were a part of creating the documentary, and I actually saw this when it originally came out, the Alien Abduction Answers, and the role that you kind of took on that documentary. You were, almost, a tool in a way to kind of help people through some of their experiences and kind of help get those things out, help them understand what it was that they might have been encountering. So I applaud you for that, because you're actually doing something to help, figure this thing out. Now, with that being said, is quantum hypnotherapy, is it in any way related to what someone might experience when going through something like a regression therapy? Is it the same? What are the differences?
Well, yeah, I came up in the clinical field of hypnotherapy when I was in clinical practice or my studies. And it's great. Hypnotherapy in itself works great. And regression therapy is wonderful. It's a wonderful tool. But coming at it from a quantum physics perspective that says two things: energy all comes from the same thing. It's all the same energy. It can never be created, nor can it be destroyed, but it can change its form and function via its vibrational state or its rate of oscillation, its frequency. So everything is made up of the same energy. It's just vibrating slightly differently or vastly differently, and that's why it looks different. or separate. And then the other lesson that we know from quantum physics is everything is happening all at once, forever, all in the same place. And they call it non-local consciousness. And so it's just all there. But again, just like the energy, it is vibrating at different rates of frequency. So I like to call them life realities. I don't like to call them past lives, because there is no past. There is no future. There's just life. And depending on what you are focusing on in your own feeling state, let's replace vibrational state to feeling or emotional state. Whatever your sustained emotional state is, that's going to be the matchup for the reality that you are going to be experiencing in that moment. So when we do quantum hypnotherapy, we just don't go into the childhood or last week or even into what one would call a past life. It's open-ended. You can go into any aspect of creation, which is infinite, and pull anything for yourself, because it's all you anyway. Carl Jung said, I think it was Carl Jung, or no, it's Edwin Schrodinger said, there's only one mind in the universe, and it's you and all the other fragmented reflections of you. So, that brings up a good point that helps me to help people understand that there's nothing to fear in these experiences, because what they are experiencing are other versions of themselves. But depending on where they are in their emotional health and spiritual health and all of that is what they're experiencing. So if they're having a terrifying experience, it's probably being informed by past cultural or religious or media indoctrination programming, right? And that's the filter they're seeing that through. So you have to really help the person become really open. So we usually go in and do some very easy things first so that they can get their footing. And then what we say is, we're going to go in to the most appropriate place and time, even though I don't believe in time in that way, but it's a good word for most people. We're going to go to the most appropriate place and time, and that will help you bring back insight for what you came here for, understanding or healing or clarity or whatever. And it always works. I mean, they go exactly where they need to go, and they are narrating. I say, you're like my star reporter, and I'm sending you out for a story, and you're just going to narrate it back to me, and I'm going to maybe feed you some questions so that you can make more discovery there. And you wouldn't believe. I mean, you saw in film some of that. It's an unbelievable thing. Every day I get to witness it, and it is so healing and so empowering, and it's just a very beneficial thing. Anyway, I love it. So
yeah, and I actually had appreciation for it, because I look at things on a very human level. I approach everything that way as well. And just to see the gratitude of, like, John, is it Yost or Yost?
It's Yost.
Yost. Okay. Yeah. John Yost. And him in particular, he actually just the appreciation that was shown, kind of really leans into what you're doing is really helping. One thing that you did point to, and I think is important to talk about, is the fact that you were born this way, right?
Yeah.
And I'm under that same belief. I'm under the belief that some of us are born with this unlocked ability to see whatever it is that we're seeing here. But then I also believe that there are some that are not born that way, and there are things that they have to do or experiences that they have to have during life that leads them to a point where this thing becomes unlocked. So do you find that a lot of the people that you end up helping, we'll call it helping for sure, that these people are coming to you because they have experienced something, or are you even coming across people that may have seen something, but then once you are able to give them the help that they need, then they realize that there's a lot of other things that they had actually been exposed to?
Yes, yes, and yes. In fact, I'll tell you something that's really interesting is, I still, even to this day, will get what I call the regular hypnotherapy clients, somebody who wants to stop smoking or wants to, improve from a bad habit of going into a default of being grouchy or something. And who doesn't believe or have an interest in any of this stuff. And we go into the field because there's always a root cause for everything, right? And so we can go right there and see what caused it. And once you perceive it, then it kind of dissipates the hold, the energy on the person. So it's really easy to go in there and help somebody quit smoking. It's so easy, but they have to have the desire to do it. But they'll come in for something like that. We'll go into the session and I'll be darned if they don't start talking about other worlds, other beings, other times, even if they've never thought about it before, it always comes out. And towards the end of the session, I always go in and ask to talk to the highest level that we can get to, that we can understand. I call it the higher self. I ask to talk to the higher self. And it's interesting because at that time, their whole demeanor will change. I usually record on video, and they usually get big, and empowered, and the voice kind of gets more powerful, and they speak in third person about the client, giving them a prescription of things to do. And there's always a call to action in these things. And so I think everyone, even though they may not feel like they were born this way, we all have these abilities in our DNA, in our energy fields. But for a good part of the population, it's latent or it's dormant. But there's always something, I call it the timing mechanism, when it's their time to find out what their purpose is, or when it's time for them to make a big change and do something different. They have either a memory or a compulsion to seek out this help. And it doesn't even have to do anything, has nothing to do sometimes with alien abduction or, interdimensional travel or anything. They go in to heal the one thing, and then they get all this other information. But whatever that is, that's a timing mechanism. And then when we do this work, stuff starts getting switched on. And that's why I always say there's a call to action, because once the stuff gets switched on, they have to do something with it. Just like John did in the movie. He originally just wanted to feel better. He had been in fear his whole life. He'd been told to lie about it his whole life, and that made him feel bad. He just had all this plethora of things that were really mangling him up on the inside, both physically and psychologically. And when he finally did go in and see this really clearly, and then start to get all of this information about what he was supposed to be doing in his life completely changed. He knew his purpose. He became galvanized to it. You couldn't stop him from it, and you still can't stop him from it, including, now he's been in a battle with pancreatic cancer for the last, 9-10 months. And he is, he's winning. He's going to beat this thing, because we have 2 more movies about this that we have to make. He's already decided. I mean, they gave him this call to do this. So that first movie was kind of the easing people in and getting them used to this. And then the other 2 are kind of building up to, what can you do? You do have this too, and now what will you do with it? So.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Definitely want to send healing energies to John Yost in this time. And I guess we can definitely get into how people out there can help that situation as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to ask you this: if based on all of the therapy sessions that you've conducted, and this is kind of just a fun one, right? So if you had to guess right in this moment, population wise, globally, if everyone at the same time were to go ahead and have experience this one of these therapy sessions, what percentage of people do you think would probably have things uncovered that they never knew about in relation to extraterrestrials or this whole experience we're going through? Like, what percentage do you think is most of us, or a handful, or what do you think?
I'm just going from the ratios of the people that I have seen over the last 4 decades. I'd say probably 70 to 80% do not know, but and I can, people will argue with me over this. I don't want to argue about it, but I'm pretty convinced that we all encounter all the time. We have encounters all the time, but either our mind blocks us from it because we're not ready. The timing mechanism hasn't gone off yet, or we have, in our age, we're overstimulated and too distracted to even hear the timing bell, the alarm bell go off. So, it's my dream to get a critical mass number of enough people, awake from the alarm, and knowing that something is vastly more incredible than what they ever thought in life, and that they are a very important part of it. And once that happens, our world will flip very quickly into something else, something much better, because you cannot experience these things in the way that my clients experience them once they go through this and not want to make the world a better place. Every single one who's ever gone in and had had a close encounter, whether it's with an ET or it's an angel or, fairies or whatever, but especially the ET ones, there's always messages about, you're killing your planet. You need to stop. You need to turn back and start taking good care of the planet. You need to take care of each other. You must take care of yourself and take care of each other. And you have to start to learn how to get along together. And you have everything you need to do that on that planet. And everyone can live in abundance equally. But until you do that, you can't make the jump to where we are, which is where most of the cosmos lives, by the way, I think. So, yeah.
I think that's pretty awesome answer there. And I love, the way you point out timing mechanism, because and just to go back, I'm with everything you just said. I also believe that the majority of the population, that we're all connected in that way, and that there is going to be an awakening moment whenever that happens. Sometimes it happens earlier for some people, later for others. And that the comment that you made about wanting to do what you can to kind of help usher that in, I think that's actually totally awesome. Now, what we'll get into is right now we're going to take the quick break. I'm going to touch a question that my guy, Drew Banky, and actually he says, love you, Debs, just so you know.
Love you too, Drew. Drew's one of my favorite shaman, and boy, did he and I have a great experience not too long ago together.
Well, so we'll talk about that too, and also kind of going into it. So for hour number 2, we're going to kind of talk about ways that people can unlock themselves, and so we'll do that. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pause for the cause, pause for a quick break, and we will be right back here with Debz Shakti, going into what we just stated and also channeling and just a bunch of other stuff. Guys, get your questions ready, put them in caps so I can go ahead and save those and ask Debs. And outside of that, we'll be back in a few minutes right here on Spaced Out Radio. See you in a minute. All right. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. And as we get ready to continue with our guest, Debz Shakti, we're going to be jumping into some questions later on this hour. But first, let me go ahead and talk about the SOR fan party that we are having May 10th through 12th this year, 2024. The itinerary goes as follows. Jessica, Dave, and myself will be hosting 1 hour each. So back to back to back, 3-hour block. Right after that, we're going to go ahead and kick off the VIP party. So Friday, we're just going to be turned up. Everybody, let's get it in. Saturday, we will be doing the ghost hunt with Merle. Saturday night, the UFO Skywatch with Melinda Leslie. Sunday, if you are able to stay, free for all hangout, anything goes. You guys decide what we do. Come and see SOR fan favorites like Science Bob, Lala Bright, Tim Senor, Jim Goodall, Melinda Leslie, Merle, Lorian Fenton, Dr. Michael P. Masters, Geraldine Orozco, Kira will be there. Come meet Dirty Filth, Jessica Jones. I want to meet you too. Everyone is invited. Let's go ahead, sit down and break bread. Let's have breakfast. Let's have dinner. Let's have breakfast for dinner. Let's make Dave upset. Let me know. We can go ahead and get it all set up. $60 for a ticket. $100 gets you the ticket plus all VIP and swag bags. Rooms have been on sale for as low as $139 per night. That's less than 3 times the cost that it cost in Vegas previous year. It's the perfect gift. We do understand this does happen during Mother's Day weekend, but hey, if you're a mother, you deserve it. You deserve a nice holiday. Get it for your daughter, your mother, your auntie. Email your request for tickets to info@spacedoutradio.com. We cannot wait to meet you. So let's go ahead and jump back in with our guest, Debs. We kind of ended on the ability for people to potentially unlock this ability within themselves. And the more and more that, and I love talking to people that have this sort of insight, and I ask a lot of the same questions to them to get a general consensus of what the majority says. So Drew mentioned earlier in the chat, and I definitely wanted to bring this up because some of the things that people do to unlock themselves, like say you were born with it, some people aren't. So some people have to go through traumatic experiences in life. Some people dip into things like hallucinogenics, ayahuasca. So and that was one thing that Drew wanted to touch on, and I definitely want, because I know he's definitely experienced that. How do you feel about that? The things that people use in order to unlock the abilities, is it the same thing? Do you get the same results? Are you accessing the same place that for someone that would be the same as someone that is born unlocked like yourself?
Well, it depends. I'd say it depends. What I like to tell people are that there are infinite numbers of paths that go up the same mountain, but you still can reach the summit of the mountain no matter which one you choose, as long as you're, careful going up the mountain with the path that you choose. Some are easy, some are rocky, and it depends on how much baggage you're carrying up the mountain on that path as well. So to speak to psychedelics for one thing, it depends. We've learned over the last 60 years, let's just say 50, 60 years, it's very important to have the right set and setting when you do this. This isn't I've been around people who had, did things like LSD or mushrooms or whatever at parties, and they have a good time and everything. And they might even have a mystical experience. But when you do it in as a sacred, spiritual, intentional act, with the intention that you want to go in and know yourself. You want to know the secrets of the universe, but really you should just ask to know yourself. And you're with an experience. I really do believe, and I encourage people all the time, you really do need an experienced person who has, been in a lineage. Usually it comes from an indigenous culture, like the people in South America, the ayahuasqueros, like Drew. Drew comes from two different lineages. He comes from a Native American lineage. He's a what is it? A ghost dancer? Drew, you're going to have to chime in there for me. He's also a very powerful shaman and an ayahuasca ceremonial facilitator, he and his wife, Ella. And so if you do this in a way that is respectful, and it needs to be comfortable, it needs to be peaceful, no distractions, you can reach all kinds of answers within yourself. I know I have. But like I said, I came in this way, and I am a lifelong yogi and meditator, and practice a lot of martial arts. So all of those things, I've been able to get to those realms without some help, but it can be a great help, and it can be very beautiful. But know that it's not always easy. It's not all fun and games. It can be, Mother Ayahuasca can be a real hard teacher. She was for me, but I had Drew and his wife there to help me. And my friend Melissa, who was helping to facilitate up at the resort where we hold our retreats. So, and our ceremonies. So yeah, I mean, did that answer your question? You can unlock those things with such things. But you can also do it with drumming. You can do it with chanting. You can do it with mantra, sound technology, saying things over and over again. And when you do it with groups, it becomes very powerful. Doing group things, very, very powerful.
So if in a perfect world, if Debs could awaken everyone at one time, what would you like? Because that's truthfully the goal that I have in my own lane, is to do the things that I'm doing to hopefully help unlock or awaken on a large scale. So if you had the ability to speak to the entire globe at one time and give information on how to unlock, what would be the steps that you would advise, the few steps you would advise to take?
Well, for me, I think the easiest way to teach people how to unlock those things in a safe way is to teach them meditation, breath work, very, very powerful stuff, doing different kinds of breath work. Again, the sound technologies, and and you could throw in sacred ceremonial practices such as what Drew does. So any of these things. I also do group events at some of these retreats, and I do it online, where I do group quantum hypnosis, where I get everybody into a coherent state, heart coherence. When you get something into a coherent state, i.e., everything's vibrating at the same rate of frequency, it's very powerful, and you can work miracles, and miracles have happened with these different practices.
All right. And after reading through your bio, it mentioned Energy Alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what that is exactly?
Yeah. Well, I kind of made that term up because, as I said, I came in being able to perceive and work with, manipulate even different types of energy and help balance people's energies and situations, energies, and things like that. But I didn't really have a way of explaining it or teaching it. And so, thankfully for me, I came into this incarnation right smack dab in the middle of a time when there were all kinds of schools for that. So I started getting certifications just so I would understand that. I'm a Reiki master in two different lineages of Reiki. Yoga is another energy technology. Hands of Light, Barbara Brennan, Quantum Touch, Core Star. So I have a lot of different types of ways of doing energy healing and energy facilitation, energy balancing. And then there are the numerous ways that I've been given by these beings that don't have a name. They're just techniques. And so rather than say, I practice this, and this, which I could give you a long list and show you all these certifications, I just put it together and I said, it's energy alchemy. Energy alchemy, the word alchemy means turning something into something else, changing its frequency, changing its properties, like the old alchemists were trying to always turn lead into gold. So I'm trying to turn the human being's psyche and their heart and their energy field from lead to gold with this.
All right. And if we moved into you being an open channel, so is that are you stating like an ET channeler, or what exactly do you mean there?
Anybody. Yeah. The main group that comes through, though, it's the most powerful voice that comes through me is through a group entity known as the Star Teachers. However, they say they don't have a label. I just kept asking them for one because people wanted to know who was talking. Humans have to have categorizing as part of their understanding. But they say that, and this is really powerful, they say they are us on a higher frequency, and that they have evolved past the need for labels. But they work as a group mind. However, they have lots of uniquenesses within the group that also alchemize, and it's very powerful. So a lot of the times you will see me I do a lot of free online Star Teacher channelings. I just have an event and they come on, they usually give a very powerful message. Then they do some sort of a group experience for healing or balancing or whatever, or education. And then they open the floor for questions, and people will sit for hours and people will ask questions and they'll give good answers, powerful answers. But in my day-to-day work, the teachers don't just come through. I mean, some people might call it mediumship too. Just like yesterday, someone's great grandpa came through, or their mother or their brother, or, people from the past, or people from different planets, all kinds of stuff. So they just come through. It's the intention. I just kind of step out of the way. And this is interesting. I usually don't remember anything. If I do, it's very little, and it always pertains to me too. I don't remember anything unless it pertains to me as well. So that's very powerful for me as a therapist. I just let things come through me, and I don't carry their stuff around with me. And that keeps it really confidential because I don't even remember it. So, they can speak freely in a session to these beings or whoever they're speaking to. So that's what open channel is. It's just, I literally open the channel and whoever needs to come through comes through.
That's pretty awesome, actually. I've never heard that, just an overall encompassing open channel. I mean, that's pretty powerful there. What do you find, what do you think the message is if you were to channel an ET species, one of the ones that you have that have an overall understanding on where it is that we are supposed to be going? The day that we all become enlightened, what would you say is their idea of our path forward once that awakening moment hits?
Well, they say it a lot. They tell us this a lot. They say that we do this. In fact, they say you have done this, or we wouldn't exist, because they call us their future ancestors. They are where they are because we do what we're doing today. In fact, this is a very powerful message for everybody too. They say that this incarnation, this life reality that you and me and Kira and Drew and, Science Bob, all these people are living right now. This is the pinnacle life reality where it all changes. This one. And so they just say, be the best you can be in this life. Do whatever you feel compelled to do that will help benefit the greatest good, because something happens in this incarnation for all of us who are here right now that causes us to come together and work together and take care of this planet and take care of each other. And when we do that, it's not that we go somewhere else. We don't go to another level. We focus on another level together and we sustain it. And that's our new reality. And then we start to evolve as beings where we're not just stuck on this planet. We became, we've already started space exploration, but it's very infant, it's infant stage. We start to go out into the cosmos and, make civilizations or join with other civilizations. And then we move up the food chain to where we're interdimensional on command. And we start exploring that way. And then we become, volitionally physical or non-physical, like the teachers are. And you just keep moving up the food chain. So they say we've already done it. They always thank us for what we do right now, because they say if we didn't do what we're doing right now, they would never exist and they would not be able to talk to us because they wouldn't exist. So it's kind of a mind bender, but that's the message I want to give everybody is that's what they keep saying. Be the best you can be. Make everything a sacred act if you can. Try to be really conscious of that and act like you have already evolved to this higher plane, to the utopia that you want to live in, and it'll be created.
Yeah, man, I'm totally with you there. And do you feel like that they're just, obviously we hope that this is the case, but do you think within our lifetimes we'll see a moment where the majority of us have reached that awakened state? What do you think about that? What is your answer to that?
That's what they keep saying. And it's not just, the people I'm channeling saying that. I'm hearing messages coming from other channels that are saying the same thing, that like, this is it. And we are going to see this, unless you're part of the small part of the population who isn't finished with this layer yet. Some of those folks will stay focused on this layer and watch it, continuously degrade into probably chaos, which will then, goad them into trying to improve something. And then eventually they'll come up too. And they say this has happened millions, trillions of times in other civilizations. It's nothing new, but it's our time right now. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I definitely hope to live to see that shift, humanity shift into this new stage. And it just makes me, and that's why I do what I do, and focus so much energy in trying to move the needle in that direction, because it just makes me feel hopeful and really good just to know that at some point, as long as the work is being done now, that at some point here in the future, we're going to have our first generation of totally enlightened and unlocked human beings. And the life that they get to live being unlocked from the beginning and having this understanding so early on, whereas for us, we live a lot of our life and then along the way, we figure things out. And by the time usually we're later in life, or have totally realized what it is that we should be doing. But there's going to be a generation that gets to experience this from day one. And I'm just so hopeful and glad that that's going to be the case, because that includes our descendants, our grandchildren, their great grandchildren that will be totally unlocked. So that's why I do this kind of and I'm resonating with what you're saying because I believe we're on that same path, and I appreciate, because I know the energy and the time that I put into trying to move the needle, and then to meet other people along the way that are on that same path and mission. We've never talked before, but when we meet here, we find out that we both have the same goal and the same mission, and I think that's awesome. I really do.
You know, look at the little kids that you know right now who just have come in the last few years, even like from 10-year-olds on down. Man, I look at, you know, I keep mentioning Drew because he's on here, but Drew and Ella's two little ones, brilliant little babies. My grandchildren even they're brilliant, and they know this stuff without ever having to be taught it. Yeah. And so they're already coming in with way more stuff turned on. And I have no doubt that some of these little ones, as we're speaking, are being born totally turned on. And that's going to really help make that energy push for the rest of us, for us old fogies like me, you know, who are still, you know, womping around in our little spacesuits. I call the body the spacesuit. You know, we're all those beings, but we came here to experience this particular kind of dense experience. And so we have to wear a spacesuit or we couldn't engage with it. So eventually a spacesuit is, you know, gets clunky and needs to be taken off, and you can be liberated. But these little kids who are coming in now, I've never seen such genius ever. You know, just crazy.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point that you're making there, because and then not even related to just the awakening of humanity as a whole, but just we do witness, you know, there's always parents that say, which every generation, that this new generation, they just get it. Yeah. And maybe that is that natural progression towards getting to that point that we're talking about. But and then the flip side to that, which when you point out Drew and his wife and their kids, it's easy to be born this way when you have the teachers in your life, which are your parents.
We have parents like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that being said, it definitely is a very, you know, inspirational thing to hear that it actually is happening as we sit here and do this work that we're doing. So with that being said, I did want to jump into the ET Contact and Paranormal Experience Counseling. I know you kind of went over some of that, but on the paranormal side of that, what are some of the things that you encounter, and how do your services assist people that may have had paranormal experiences?
Oh, cool. Well, thanks for asking. You name it, I've been there. It's so amazing. Anything from, you know, I've actually had people, you know, ask me to help exorcise demons from their loved ones or for themselves. And so what I do, or you know, come to their house because their house is haunted and there's ghosts and they can't stand it anymore. It's so scary. And so what I do is I meet people where they are, and I speak the language that they're speaking, and I work with whatever the energy is doing, using what those people understand. You know, so if they grew up, you know, needing that kind of thing, that's how I work with it. But to a person, every one of these things, and I have dealt with ghosts and spirits and, you know, even dragons and houses that were, you know, taking on their own personalities and trying to attack the people, all this stuff. What I tell people is there's always a message for you here. You would not be experiencing what you're experiencing, no matter what you call it, if you didn't have some sort of something going on in your being that is a match to what's going on with that being. And there's always a message, you know. For instance, if there's a ghost in someone's house and they're, you know, experiencing things getting thrown around or noises, or, you know, I had a friend even one time who didn't believe in any of this, but she was just going crazy because she couldn't sleep at night. She lived by herself. She was a single woman, gorgeous, like model type woman. But every time she went in her bedroom, the temperature would drop from the rest of the house like 30 degrees. You could see your breath in her bedroom. And every time she would go to bed, like the big mirror on the wall would fall off the wall. And when she would go to bed, she felt like there was someone laying on top of her, crushing her, trying to smother her. So it got real bad. And everybody said, you know, have Debs go over and see what she can see. Well, it turns out that the being who was coming through, you know, because they had something in common, the being was a young woman who was born disfigured and disabled about 100 years ago. On that property, there was an old farmhouse, and to elderly people who were very religious, and they didn't want the community to know about her. And so they locked her in the attic for her whole life. They kept her in there. And she was, you know, she was told she wasn't, that she was too ugly to go out in public, and that, you know, she should, they tried to, you know, shame her and pray the demons out of her and all this stuff. Anyway, she had a terrible life. And so she never left that property. When she died a traumatic death. And I think, if I remember right, she died because a big mirror fell off the wall and hit her in the head, and she died. So in comes my friend into a new house, and her bedroom is so girly. It's all pink and frilly, and she has a million mirrors on her wall because she's really beautiful, and it made the room light and everything. And this being wanted to be like her. So she wasn't trying to kill her. She was trying to be close to her. And she was trying to get her attention and tell her story. And so when I finally went in there, and I just usually ask, and I say, why are you here? What can I do how can I help you? And, you know, when I become resonant with that being, then they just spill their guts. And then I turn to my friend, and I'm translating for her and telling her everything. And she's like, oh my gosh, I always felt like that when I was a young kid. I always felt really ugly. I was afraid to look in the mirror. I was afraid to go out of the house. So she had a little bit of that energy in her. So this woman used it. It's almost like an open telephone line to get to her. And when we finally, it's like when I was talking about going into quantum hypnosis, and you see a specific incident that started, was the root cause of your smoking in this lifetime. Then it's dissolved and it's healed. It's the same thing. Once you know the reason why that entity is there and doing what it's doing, it's all healed. It becomes dissolved, I guess, equalized. And so they made their peace, and she left. We sent her to the light so that she could be in her ultimate form, her beautiful self. And there's never been a problem there since. So sometimes it takes doing something like that to be able to counsel, then you sit down and say, and explain, this is why this is happening. Do you understand? Does that resonate with you? And almost all the time it does. They start to see the light and say, oh yeah, I need to work on myself a little bit. There's something in me that still feels like that. I'm overcompensating by trying to be too beautiful, all the time, or too perfect, right? So that was that situation, but I don't know if that helps. But a lot of it is with like abductees or people who have, bad relationships with their crossed over loved ones or ancestors or whatever. And it takes just sitting down and listening to them mostly, and then finding the common thread between the human and what's going on.
All right, that's awesome. And if you could, Debs, I sent you a private chat message. If you could check that real quick. And I had
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, so let me do this real quick. Paramarv saying, hey folks, don't forget to hit the like button when you can. It helps the show, and I do agree with that. If you guys can go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't already, it definitely helps show your love and support Spaced Out Radio. And with that being said, I want to talk about the questions real quick, guys. So looks like Debs, it will be able to hang out with us for the first half hour of hour 3. So we'll use that segment for questions specifically. So just so you guys know, so far, I got a couple questions I had from Paramarv and then Angela Ellison. So I did mark your questions. Anyone else, if you had put your questions in, I may have missed them. So save them. And then when we get into hour 3, I'll be looking specifically for those, and we can ask Debs for the first half of hour 3. So I do appreciate that, Debs, as well. And I do want to ask this here. So when it comes down, because being that you're an open channel, so, when we think about communicating, and like in the instance where you stepped in and mediated that situation, when we hear about communication from those on the other side, it's usually, pointing out that this person is still around, they're still watching you, they care about what you're doing, and just wanted you to know. So a lot of consolation. Yes. Is there ever a time where these souls on the other side, do they have any awareness of the ET consciousness side? So are they giving, instead of just giving consolation, are they offering advice on what it is that they know now that they are on the other side in relation to the overall larger umbrella of consciousness?
Absolutely. And I think that's what's really fun is, just like I was saying, the guy I spoke with yesterday, his great grandpa came through, he was just talking about, it's almost like they fine tune through the conversation. First, it's about, I love you, and I loved your dad, and I loved your grandpa. And then he starts giving specific information about, and this guy is very interested in ET contact, but he's, he didn't know what to do with the rest of his life. And this grandfather figure, who he had only met once before he passed on, he didn't really have a relationship, but this guy was yelling at me to allow him to speak. And he told him, this is awesome. He told him, I can't give you a ton of specifics because it's confidential, but he told him that he needed to become more involved in the ET contact communities and get in, and start working with people to advance 0-point energy devices. And this guy's like, what? My great grandpa's telling you that? And I'm like, this is what he's telling you. And he's saying, get in touch with this guy. And I won't say his name because it's confidential, but a specific guy, well-known in the ET contact community, and ask him about a man named William. And that will lead you to the group that you need to start working with. And then he started talking about learning about how to use properties of different crystals, gemstones, because they all have different energy properties, and that's going to help with that. So anyway, he gave really specific stuff about developing ET technology in this lifetime to bring this new advanced age to humankind with this 0-point energy. Because, you know, if everybody has free energy, there's not going to be any lack anymore. People will be able to grow food anywhere and have clean water and have power. And so the people who are trying to, you know, control everybody won't have any power. So anyway, this guy's just gobsmacked and he's writing it all down. And he writes me back last night and he said, check this out. I wrote to the guy and I haven't heard back from him. I know he's extremely busy. So I just went on Facebook and looked at his friends list and there's one William. So I went to this William's Facebook page and Instagram page and guess what he's working on? Energy technology.
Wow.
And he wrote to him and the guy's like, yeah, let's get together. You know, so how bizarre is that? So you think you're going to talk to your great-grand, or you think he's just like, can you talk, you know, do any of my ancestors want to talk to me? He thought it was just going to be, you know, ancestral stuff.
Right.
And this guy was yelling at me. I mean, there were others who wanted to come through, but he's like, me first. This is super important. And it was all about developing what you would call ET technology right now for us. I was just blown away.
Yeah, that's mind blowing, and that's a great answer too. Because I definitely, it's just, man, it just made it, I wonder, because it is, I believe it's a whole interconnected consciousness thing out there, and all these various aspects that access this consciousness and this other realm that they live in. They would have to be intertwined. These all couldn't be separate things. They have to be related in some way. And that's what I'm figuring out more and more that I have these discussions and why my questions come off this way. But I did have a question because this kind of, I posted something on social media and I got a response from you, which was awesome. I didn't even think that would end up being the case. It was in relation to CE5.
Yeah.
And I have this goal, and I'm sure I'll speak about it because I don't care if someone steals the idea, because all it's going to do is help us get to where we need to go.
Yeah.
So, I had an idea that one of the ways that like I told you earlier, I'm thinking of ways that we could affect more of the larger populace in at one time using one event to kind of bring people in and maybe awaken a lot of people at once. One of those things that I thought about was CE5 and just reaching out to all of the proven CE5 specialists out there to try to organize something on behalf of humanity that would allow us to have all these brilliant minds come together with these abilities to usher in a confirmation sort of event where these things can be summoned or called in front of everyone. I mean, I would think that would be something that would probably awaken a lot of people at once. Maybe not everyone, but I'm sure a large group of people would be unlocked at that moment. So what is your insight into CE5 and this, as far as success rate? If we were to do something like this, what do you think the success rate would be in picking one day to get together and with 5 or 6 different CE5 specialists and try to bring this moment in?
Well, we've done it many times and with great success, and it keeps building. So it's like we keep having practice runs. I participate in several of them. Several years ago, Jimmy Blanchett, I don't know if you know who he is. He's a brilliant mind. And if you don't know who he is, you need to look him up and you need to get him on your show. One of the most brilliant minds in our world right now. And he's a radio scientist. And so he communicates through a special antenna array that he built. But it's so much more than that, because now he's getting information from the ETs that prove exactly that everything is mathematically, there's like an elegant mathematical formula that runs through all of creation, and it's part of the the fractal universe, from the math of the pyramids to the math of the dimensions of our planet to the math of our planet to the sun's distance and through the solar system and on out. It's incredible. And I can't get into it because he's gone so far over my head now. We're good friends. But several years ago, he was told, and he wasn't interested in this stuff at first, but he was told, he was laying on the beach with his family on vacation, and he got the schematic for this antenna array. And it was so compelling that he had to leave the beach, run up to the hotel, and draw it on a napkin. And then he started getting just pestered, is what he said, by these beings to build it and to communicate and then to start distributing this information to other people in the world. But a couple of years in, he was told to gather special people from the CE5 community and have an international CE5 event out in California, up in the high desert, in the mountains. And I was one of those people. And we really had some spectacular stuff happen. I mean, we had a ship land, and we had, I can't talk about a lot of it because it was private and we're all still working on some of it, but we had some phenomenal things happen. And that was just kind of the funnel that started putting me together with a lot of these other research teams, these other people. Several years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, my good friend Costa McCreese, who runs ET Let's Talk, another person you should have on the show if you haven't before.
That name again?
Costa, Kosta McCreese, Makreas. Costa McCreese.
Okay.
Started, he used to work with Dr. Greer. He's one of Dr. Greer's first group. He splintered off, and he now has the largest, he has over 1 million people in his CE5 community. And he has an interactive map, and all over the world, he tells people, people get on the map and can see where there are CE5 groups or where there are people who want one, and they get together. But once a month, they do CE5. I do it with them. But do you remember that little guy who several years ago, it was a hoax? He said he was going to have a flash mob go and storm Area 51 and release them aliens and all that. Well, that was a joke, but it gave us the idea to use that energy and get people together. And so for 6 weeks ahead of that date that he said he was going to do that, Costa and I and his team got together, and we decided we were going to have global CE5 events over Zoom, and the star teachers were going to conduct it, and they were going to come forth with information and everything, and we were all going to meditate at the same time and try to raise the consciousness grid of the earth. And so we did a lot of prep work, and I bought the real expensive Zoom where you can have 10,000 people. We did it for 3 days straight, and every day there were more people trying to get on than we had space for. And they were all meditating together, and everywhere, all over the world, there were, sightings at the same time. There were awakenings. There was all kinds of stuff that happened. So was there a mass sighting of ships all over the world, over the White House and all that? No, but there were mass sightings of ships and orbs and all kinds of other things at the same time every time we got together. Oh, and we also had at Paralabs, they were measuring the Schumann resonance of the planet. They do that every day. Every time we got together for those 3 hours a day, huge spikes in the Earth's energy, collective energy, on the Schumann resonance. So we affected the energy of the planet. So it's being done, but it needs to be done on a bigger scale and with even more directed, focused intention. And maybe you're the guy to do it, Rob. You know, I'll be on your team. I sure will.
Well, thank you for that, and I will. I'm definitely going to call on you for that. And you're exactly right, because I know these things, these events take place. I know my guy Brown Dorf, who's usually in the chat, does these near me in L.A. And I'm about an hour from LA, so I'm supposed to link up with him on that. But these things, and I hear that there's success in these events, but they happen even though there's a group of people. It's still not like the populace, and we
it's
had
not like, you know, a billion people yet.
Yeah, but look, we had bringing in confirmation is bigger than us landing on the moon, and we had global attention on that moment live as it took place. This should be treated with the same importance. This should be something that should be higher attention to this event, because it's something that brings in who knows what for humanity. So yeah, I hope, I would think that someone else should have done this by now, but you're right. Maybe I'm the guy to kind of spark that up and get it going. And that is my mission for 2024. So I do appreciate you signing in for that. How far are you from Reno?
I'm in Kansas City, but I travel all the time. So
if the stars align perfectly, if you have the ability to come out to the Space Out Radio fan party in May 10th and 12th. That would be awesome.
I'm hoping to. I was sad that I couldn't make it last year, but I literally was hosting a retreat at the same time, so I couldn't make it.
We'll get into the retreats too, because I know you have that going on as well. I was going to ask you, because do you know Brian Bowden by chance?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Brian is a great guy in general. He does C5 as well, and he is usually here on Saturday, but he won't be here tonight. But he has also agreed to sign in too. So it would be, if you happen to be in Reno, he's going to be there as well. There would be 2, and I wanted to get maybe like 5, but 2 is a great number.
People. Yeah, I rub elbows with a lot, and I'm not trying to brag, but I've been in this for so long. You know, I've had Skywatch groups before the term CE5 happened, you know, for decades before that. I still have a CE5 group here locally, but for the most part, I do these big training retreats, and so we try to, you know, get big groups of people and teach them how to do it so that they can go to their homes and start doing it with groups. You know, it's a viral grassroots kind of thing. So, but I do work with some very high level folks in the contact community. And I'd be happy to try to, you know, talk them into coming, and we could do that. Another person you might want to have on your team and on your show is Kimberly Porth. Kimberly Marie. She goes by Kimberly Marie Porth. She's one of my best friends, and she is a very established, very revered CE5 contact and consciousness facilitator like I am. And we often work together because we love each other. But she's in Michigan. She'd be great too.
How do you spell her last name?
Porth, Porth.
Okay, great. I appreciate that lead there as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're gonna need I mean, you all the best minds on this. I mean, because if put together correctly and if done right, this could be one event that could really move that needle that we're trying to all move. You know what I mean? So it would be awesome to try to do this. We also will have in May someone at the event that does documentaries and video work. So the stars should align to be able to videotape this, have the right people there, and we may be able to pull this off. So awesome. What I do want to do real quick here is, because we're going to be heading into the break in 6 minutes. So when we come back from the break, I do want to start off with jumping into your retreat and what's going on there. And then we'll ask questions on the back end of that. So I guess with that being said, so yeah, hopefully we have Debs in Reno. That would be awesome. And another name, guys, to add to the list for you guys to come out and meet is Debs. And I know Debs has a lot of fans out there. So we're going to set that up. Let me see here. Let me see. Did you have anything that you wanted? So I guess let's do this. For the last few minutes, just tell everybody where they can find you and some of the things that you're into right now.
Sure. All of my contacts are under Debz Shakti, DEBZSHAKTI. So my website, debzshakti.com, all my social medias, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, and my YouTube channel is Debz Shakti. So all of those you can contact me through. The website's really easy to contact me through that. And the website's a good one-stop shop too, because it shows not just what my services are and explains them all. And you can even schedule through there if you want an appointment. But it also, I just updated it today for all of the amazing new things that I'm doing this year that have I've hit the ground running on in just the last couple of weeks. I'm launching my own podcast called Hidden Variables. I've been recording that for all week, and it's getting ready to publish. And very important for your listeners, I started a monthly free online experiencers group called The Vortex. And it's done over Zoom. It is private, so you have to ask to join. And that way it's kind of a safe haven. But it's not just for ET contact experiencers, it's for of any phenomenon, like paranormal activity and so forth. And so it's a place where we can kind of gather around, like our ancestors used to gather around the cosmic campfire and tell our stories to people who will listen and maybe, give a hug here or there, or say, hey, yeah, that happened to me, but here's a piece that you might be missing. But it's also a place for me to also then begin to give educational or helpful experiences, teach people techniques on how to feel better if they're scared, or if they have anxiety over it, or how to develop their skills that are being turned on and all that. So it's really great. I'm really proud of it. We had one meeting already. We're getting ready to have another in February, and it's already a big hit. But so the Vortex, we'll talk about the retreats after the break. We usually do all kinds of retreats up in northern Wisconsin. I don't give the name of the resort that we do it, just so that, again, we can have privacy. But there's information that I can send to people if they contact me and want to, be involved. And we do all kinds of retreats. But it's about training and sharing information with people. So that's what I've been involved with lately. On top of, my work, I work every day with people. And then I've also been spending a lot of time trying to fundraise for my friend John Yost, the filmmaker, to help him pay for his cancer treatment. So there's a GoFundMe page, and it's right on the front page of my website. If people want to hear his story, and even donate $1 or $2, because everything's out of pocket. And he and his wife have literally gone through all their savings. They've spent probably over $500,000 this year trying to get him healed so he can continue to do the work that he was called to do by the ETs, which is make 2 more of these movies. And we need to get him back on the road to do that. So you can go there and do that too. And hopefully I'll be involved in making some more movies here pretty soon.
Well, I hope so. And yeah, definitely want to definitely shine some light on John Yost. And you guys, please definitely, if you have the ability to show some love over there, please consider doing so. Anyone who, this field doesn't pay a lot, if anything.
Pays nothing.
Most people do it totally for free, just for the want to see something change for humanity. And there's sometimes you got to call to action, and this would definitely be a time for that. Help somebody in their hour of need in this life that we live. So
I just want to say really quickly, the movie Alien Abduction Answers was completely done on their dime, Rhino Productions' dime. They literally, second mortgaged their homes to make that movie, and none of us has taken a penny of pay to be in that movie. Everybody did it for free. But I highly recommend, if you guys want to know what we're talking about, if you're new to this, or if you've had an experience, or you've had something in the back of your mind that's just itching, you want to understand it, go see that. See that movie. It's streaming everywhere. It's even free on Tubi, I think. So please see it. And I think it will help.
Yeah, it definitely. I would recommend it too. Definitely free on Tubi, guys. After hours, you guys go ahead and watch that. Well, after the call-in show, go ahead and watch that. So with that being said, what I want to point out, Vaughn, thank you for the super chat, stating, like Tim said, hit the likes, please, you guys. If you guys are here, even if you're not in the chat, consider hitting that like button. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We love to see you back here. And what we're going to do right now is go ahead and pause for the cause and take actually our last break of the night as we get ready to jump into hour number 3 with Debs. She's going to be answering questions for you guys. So get your questions ready. And we'll also talk about the retreat. And you had an experience that you have a video for. I'm going to try to get that up too, so you can speak to that.
Oh yeah, man, that just happened. Yeah.
We'll do all that in hour number 3 here on Spaced Out Radio. You guys kick back and we'll be right back. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. And joining us is our guest, Debz Shakti, for hour 3. Appreciate you, Debs. For the final hour, we're going to be asking Debs questions. So you guys get your questions ready. Get them ready. And let's go ahead and talk once again about the SOR fan party. Let me actually bring the graphic up for this. The SOR fan party, May 10th through 12th, 2024. As you can see with the graphic here, let's see. We have special guests, Dave Scott, Science Bob Murrow, Mr. Rob G, Melinda Leslie, Dr. Michael P. Masters, R. Keith Andrews, Jessica Jones, Lala Bright, Jim Goodall, Dirty Phil, Tim Senor, Lorian Fenton, Kira Grant Baker, Geraldine Orozco, potentially Debz Shakti, also Brian Bowden, and maybe even Travis Musto stated he was coming. It's gonna be a crazy amount of people that you're gonna want to meet there. So make sure
many of my friends there. Yeah,
exactly. A lot of the names in this field, and we want to meet you guys. So make sure you guys show up. Please show up. The itinerary goes as follows. Jessica, Dave, and myself will host 1 hour each. After the show is the after party, the VIP party. Saturday, we'll do ghost hunting with Merle. Saturday night, UFO Skywatch with Melinda Leslie, possibly / CE5 enlightenment event as well. Sunday, if you're able to stay, a free-for-all hangout. Come and see SOR fan favorites that I just listed here on the screen. And Jessica Jones will be there. We all want to meet you. Dirty Filth as well. Let's go ahead and set it up. Tickets are $60. $100 to get you the ticket in the VIP swag bags. Rooms have been on sale for as low as $139 per night. That's less than triple the price of Las Vegas. You can get more information on this. Just email info@spacedoutradio.com. All right. So with that being said, Debs, you have a retreat that you're hosting. Why don't you go ahead and we can get into that and then go from there.
Yeah. Well, there are several retreats this year, but the one that's coming up is in April. And guys, don't get offended, but this one's just for women. We found that there are women in the metaphysical, contact, paranormal community who need a lot of support. And it's about unleashing kind of the magic within. And so it's going to be at this beautiful lake resort up in northern Canada or northern Wisconsin that we do a lot of our retreats with. I'll be there, and I'm going to be doing a lot of quantum work, quantum hypnosis work, and I'm going to be also doing breath work, yoga, teaching things like that, and offering a new technology that I've developed called mindscaping, which is it's kind of an art therapy that you do under kind of quantum hypnosis. You get into that theta state, and you allow yourself to draw, and what you're doing with an intention of healing or manifesting something, you literally you come up with a picture of your neural net inside your brain as it looks when you've accomplished it. It's really beautiful and weird and cool. I don't have anything handy to show you, but that's going to be at the retreat. But also, my friend Nicolette Page is going to be there. She is a powerful bruja. She's works with spell work and with ancestral ceremonial work. She's going to be working with the women doing that. Melissa Kane, who owns the resort, is going to be doing cacao ceremony, which is extremely heart opening and powerful. And then there's going to be some fun stuff. It's near the sacred period called Beltane. It's very close to the 1st of May. It'll be in April. But up in the woods, we're going to learn how to make special crowns out of flowers. And we're going to do a quantum hypnosis group event where an experience where they're going to meet their spirit animal. And there will be a special photography team up there to do photo shoots and makeup where they're going to make the women up look like their spirit animals, put these crowns on and do photo shoots. And the women will get to play with that. And there's just a lot more. It's just packed with stuff. Reiki, energy alchemy, Reiki, massage, all kinds of things to kind of get women to open up more to this kind of activity. Women kind of hold back. Men seem to be a little bit, more, I'm not afraid. I want to go out there and I want to see them aliens, women more. So if we can empower them, that's what this is going to be about. But it's very healing. It's about, going in and learning meditation and learning things to take back to their home too. And there will probably be some Skywatch stuff going on there too. And then later on in the year, we'll be having CE5, at least one big CE5 retreat that I know of. We're going to have some really big name people come this year. This will be our 6th year, I think, to host these. So, and who knows what else we'll be doing.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is awesome. So ladies, you heard her. You definitely want to sign up to come out for the retreat. Mothman says he wants to go, but Mothman, he clearly said is for the ladies, Tim. It's for the ladies. Okay. Looks like the ladies have something. Yeah, there we go.
That's called Untamed Magic.
Now you had Here I Am says that does sound fun in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So Kira, won't you go and then report back and let us know what happened? That might be awesome.
I'd love for you to come, Kira.
Yeah. Okay. We linked it up. Okay. Now you had an experience or a sighting recently. It had something to do with some orbs. Go ahead and talk about that. What happened there?
Oh, wow. It's a little tough for me because 2023 was a year where my spacesuit started falling apart. I'm almost 68 and I've been an elite athlete, pretty extreme athlete most of my life in multi endeavors. But one of the longest lived is marathon running and ultra marathon running and things like that. So I was out on a 7.5 mile run on a trail last February and my right leg quit working. It was very painful. And I'll just fast forward to going through many, many months of being immobile and in pain to finding out I needed a total hip replacement, which is one of the most brutal things you can have done to your body. Let me just tell you. And so I went through that in late June and it took about 4.5 months to recover and actually learn how to walk again. And, all of that very hard on the body. And interesting enough, 8 weeks after the surgery, I convinced my surgeon to release me to travel so that I could go do one of these retreats up in Wisconsin. But I wasn't really open with him about what I'd be doing. And it was a CE5 retreat where you hike out into the woods and you stay out all night. And then I taught all day, every day. And, it was very, very hard and I was not recovered enough. And I started having these episodes where I felt like I was going to die. I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't put words together. My brain wasn't functioning. I felt like I needed to go to sleep, which I did. We're up 22 hours a day at those things. And almost just didn't make it through. But I got home and went through some things and found out from doctors that they thought I had an autoimmune disease. And it was probably just triggered by my body not being able to handle everything. It was just too much. And that let that in. And then they were saying, because of all the horrible symptoms that kept deteriorating over the last few months, that they thought I had several severe autoimmune diseases, which was frightening because my mom died from that. And but she lived for like 17 years as an invalid. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So about 2.5 weeks ago, I was having one of the toughest days. I've continued to work, but it's been really hard. And I had one of my toughest days. And I just thought at the end of the day, I'm going to do some gentle yoga and try to at least get back into something, some semblance of feeling good before my husband comes home. So I just had on some little yoga pants, a tank top. I was barefoot. And then I realized it was time for him to come home. I ran outside to go open our garage door for him because we do nice things for each other. And now bear in mind, we've been in really cold weather. We're in the Midwest in January. It was probably 20 if it was that outside. But I went outside and opened the garage door. And then I realized suddenly there were thousands of birds singing, like songbirds. Now in the winter we have geese, but we don't have birds. And I thought, wow, that's really unusual, you know? And I looked up in the bare trees and there were so many birds that looked like they had leaves in them. There were that many birds. And I was just like, wow, thank you. That's really amazing. That's uplifting. Have felt so terrible all day. And I was starting to get depressed and a little down, which isn't like me. But anyway, just as I said that, no sound at all. Zero sound, not just no birds, but no sound at all. And I've had this happen to me many times, especially during CE5 events. When that happens, you're going to have a visitation, something. And so I just stood there and opened my heart like I teach other people to do. And I said, welcome, to whoever. And I was looking up, the sky was blue, it was still daylight. And suddenly these two giant white orbs or spheres showed up. First one, and then a few seconds later, another one right next to it. And they started moving in tandem slowly across the sky. And they were flashing or kind of signaling like gold and yellow every once in a while, but nothing like an aircraft. It was very random. And I just felt this beautiful love. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Thank you. This is amazing. It's in the daytime. Anybody can see this, and then suddenly 1, 2, 3 smaller ones that were kind of bluish, bright white, like LED lights on headlights. They came into view right next to them, but they were swarming around them like bees, like doing this.
Yeah.
Now we don't, as far as I know, we don't have anything that does that, And so I was just in awe and I was just saying, thank you. Do you have a message for me? How can I help you? The two were moving very slowly across the arc of the sky in tandem. They never broke being in tandem. It was like they were connected. The others were going all over the place like they were playing with them. When they got to the zenith right above my head, it stopped and hovered. And then suddenly, this is going to sound crazy, but suddenly this huge, it felt like a waterfall of gold and white light just came down and surrounded me, went into the earth, and I could feel it like saturating, going into my being, like into my veins, into my capillaries, into my organs, everything. And I got really hot, and like I said, I was out there with hardly any clothes on in 20-degree weather, barefoot, and I was sweating. It was so hot. And I just said, thank you. This is amazing. What a great experience. How can I help you? And a voice came into my head and it said, what you need to do is get out of fear. You need to get out of the state of fear and get back to yourself and get back to work. And get back to work immediately. And then it said, the oddest thing, it said, remember to always look for what is in the spaces between all the things. And I said, okay, thank you. Thank you so much, and then it started to move. The two started to move off and the other three were just buzzing around. And they went over to the horizon and started to blink out 111. And then the other two, as soon as I said thank you, and I said I love you, because I felt all this love, I just said I love you, they were gone. And then I realized it had gotten dark. So this took like 20, 25 minutes. It had gotten dark, and I turned around to go to the house because I'm like, well, that's over. Oh, all the birds came back, which is odd too. Even in the summer, the birds don't sing in, in the dark. And then here came my husband driving up the driveway, looking at me like, what in the world are you doing? But ever since then, I have been completely well. I have been more than well. I have been Deb's version 10.0. A day or two later, we had a major snowstorm, and I shoveled very heavy snow for 5 hours. Whereas 2 days before, I could barely function. I could barely get around, and I couldn't function. So it's gotten more and more powerful every day. And since then, in meditation, that voice has come back and said, now and I always am grateful. And I say, thank you. How can I be of service with this? And it says, you now are the generator of this. You've been given this energy. You're the generator. Anyone you interact with and work with will receive this energy too. So there's no mistake. Any of you are here listening to this right now, or anyone listening to that silly TikTok video that I made, anyone I tell this story to, you are receiving that same energy as I speak. And there have been people contacting me ever since saying, it's happening to me. I've been very sick and now I'm well. Or I had a problem that I couldn't solve and now suddenly I know the answer. So what were those things? Were they ETs? I see ET beings all the time. I see ships in the sky all the time. I see orbs all the time. This was at a level I've never experienced before, Rob. I'm going to get emotional because it's so powerful, but
it is. And you had a comment here from Van Gogh that said super Debs. And I agree.
That's what it feels like.
And I'm glad that you are feeling okay at this point. When you talked about that experience, I had a UFO sighting about a little over a year ago, August of 2022. And the what they were doing initially was exactly what you said when you said they were going like this against each other. They were doing this, and I try to explain it to people as almost like mosquitoes, like a swarm, like flying amongst each other. But see, these were in broad daylight and they were physical objects. My theory is that whatever these things were, if had it been night, they probably would have shown as orbs as well. That's just my a working theory that I have.
Yeah.
But a lot of and they also ended up going from where they were in the sky to flying directly overhead. I didn't get that download or feeling that you mentioned, but there were 3 people there for the sighting, and 2 adults and then a child. And I spoke to the other adult, and we had the same effect, which was if you looked at the sky seemed to it. So I'll explain it like this. So if you were to look into a calm puddle of water and view the sky through that puddle, and if you had tiny raindrops falling into that water, the way that those hit the water and obstruct your view of the sky is what we saw looking into the sky. Don't know what that was. I have no idea what that could have been, but I resonated with it. Kind of reminded me of the sighting that you just described.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's crazy. I got so much stuff I could talk to you about and show you, and we will end up talking about this at some point.
I hope so.
What I do want to do is give the audience a chance to ask their questions. So I know I have a couple here, or maybe 2 or 3. You guys, please start putting your questions in the chat now, and we'll get them answered as you put them in. But the first question that did come through was from Paramarv. And he asks, I've heard another long-time hypnotist say that he can hypnotize you and show you other parallel life paths and let you pick one, like
Yes.
changing a channel on a TV. Is that possible?
Yes, we do it all the time. There are many names for that. The most popular name for that is quantum jump, where you literally choose to do something else, or you choose to develop a skill and bring it back here. But really, I don't think you bring it back here. I think you bring this you there and you start existing there. But yes, it does happen all the time. And in fact, I want to tell Paramarv and your listeners, you may not realize this, but you shift in and out of different frequencies trillions of times per second. You're just not aware of it. Everything in creation is in the quantum field. It all exists, like I said, in the same point at the same time forever. And so you can access anything from there because via quantum entanglement, you were talking about everything being connected a little while ago, Rob.
Yes.
It's called quantum entanglement. It is a proven thing in our science right now. We've proven that. Everything affects everything else. So you can literally access a different life path if you want. It's all about choice, and it's about maintaining the energetic, emotional state, the focus of actually living that. And here's the thing, you have to, as the teachers like to say, you have to trust with a capital T that it's real and act like it's real. And when you do, it's real.
And Paramar wants to add to that question and states, is it ethical? Because he'd feel like he's stealing from the other version of himself.
No, it always affects beneficially all versions of yourself. And it affects beneficially all versions of yourself that are other people. You may not understand that from your point of perspective as a human being, but this is something that has been even written in ancient spiritual texts from many different cultures. It is the most ethical thing you can do, is to make choices to live in the highest version of yourself that you possibly can. You're not stealing from anybody. There is enough infinite everything in the universe for everyone. You can't steal from anyone. Only in this construct, third dimensional Earth life, which is kind of a, forgive me, I don't like using the word simulation, but it's a construct. It's an experimental science lab that we built to play with lack and limitation. That isn't the true reality of life. So I want to encourage you to try it and play with that and see what you come up with. I want to find out where you go.
Yeah, Paramar, you heard that. Give it a try and let us know how it works out so we can update Debs on that. We have another question from Angela Ellison, who asks, is there a chance Debs had an NDE at birth?
Well, I don't know if I had one at birth, but I've had two that I know of consciously in my life. And I can tell you right now, there's no need to fear death. It is literally you're taking off a spacesuit. You really are. But I don't know that I had one at birth, but it's interesting that she mentions my birth because my birth was very odd. I was my mother's first child, and I was born very tiny. I was less than 4 pounds. And when I was born, they thought I was dead because I wasn't breathing for a little bit and they couldn't hear a heartbeat. Well, turns out they moved the stethoscope a little and my heart is on the other side. And then they did more testing. And over my life, I've had a lot of testing. I have I was born a very rare human being. Everything inside of me is a mirror image of most other people's. All my organs are on the opposite. everything is backwards. It's called situs inversus. But so, there was some trauma there at birth, but I don't think I had a near-death experience. They just thought my heart wasn't beating because they couldn't hear it. I also have the rarest blood type. And there's just all kinds of other weird things about this body. So, we can speculate about that, whatever. But it's a good question. It's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. We do have Quantum Momentum, who has a quantum related question. How can someone do self-quantum healing?
That's a good question. I love teaching people how to do that, but really, quantum momentum, anybody can do it. All you have to do is get quiet and still and shut out all of the outside stimuli, i.e. meditation. Get into a meditative state or a theta state. If you like to listen, for instance, to binaural beats music or solfeggio tones, pick one for the theta state. And just get into a place where you're in that flow state, where you feel like you're, light, where you're in a high vibrational state. How do you know you're in a flow state? There are 3 indications. You lose sense of time, you lose sense of your body doesn't nag you, and you lose sense of outside environment stimuli. So for instance, everybody does this several times a day, many times a day. You get lost in a good book or a movie. You may get so focused on creating a piece of art that someone comes in and says, hey, it's way past dinner and you didn't even eat lunch. Did you realize you've been in here for a long time, and you didn't feel your stomach nagging at you that you're hungry. So get into some sort of flow state. Anybody who wants to know how to get into the flow state so that you can do self-quantum healing, which is just getting in that state and then expressing gratitude that you're already healed and feel what it feels like to be healed. If anybody wants to know some of the practices that I like to teach, how to get to that flow state so that you can launch into that, just contact me. Go on my website. I have free tutorials, or I'd be happy to send you some free tutorials about how to do that. Simple stuff like breath work, making a sound with your voice, and some other things to still your mind. And then once you're there, to allow yourself to feel just what I described earlier. Just feel it going through you. So I hope that helps.
Definitely does. And we have Tamothman asking, Debs, can you share your triangle sighting with the audience?
Which one, Tim? He may be talking about the one that happened many years ago. As I said, I'm a runner, and I was running in my neighborhood. My neighborhood's an older neighborhood that was built around a small lake. It used to be a kind of a health resort back in the early 1920s, actually. And if this is the one Tim's talking about, I've told it on some of Grant Cameron's shows and stuff, and I think it's in one of his books. But I was running. It was a really foggy morning, and something told me to stop at this one spot, in my run around the lake. And I just stood there, and it was really just, foggy. You couldn't hardly see anything. And suddenly up from the lake comes this huge black triangular craft. Now, bear in mind, this lake is probably at most 20 feet deep, maybe 30 feet deep at its deepest. This thing was huge. It was bigger than a football field. And yet it just came up out of the lake, no displacement of water, no sound. even the fog wasn't displaced. It just came up right in front of me. And it came up and it was just huge. And again, there was this energy. You just always feel this energy. And it rose up out of the lake. There was no water dripping off of it either. Rose up right above me. And on each tip of the apex of each of the corners was a light. And there was a light in the center. And it just hovered there for a while. And I just felt this connection. I mean, it was bigger than anything I've ever seen up close, you know, huge. There's no way it could have fit in that lake, you know? And then suddenly it just shot off and was gone. And so that was one. I've seen many, but that was the one you may have heard of before, Tim. So thanks for asking that.
He did say yes, that is the one that he's speaking about. And
Awesome.
with you saying that, because you always hear about these craft obviously coming out of water, we feel like they have bases in the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
But important part of what you just said was that this craft that came out of this lake shouldn't have been able to fit in this lake to begin with. And what the way that and I'm middle of the road, so I go where the evidence leads me. And when I look at USOs, one of the things that I've thought about was that, okay, these things are in the water, makes sense. They may have a base underwater, okay, makes sense. But the thing that I always have a problem with is that the ocean floor is pretty volatile when it comes to like volcanic activity and things of that nature. So you get to thinking, how much sense does it make for them to live on the bottom and have some sort of base somewhere where it's that volatile? And then it kind of takes me into the place where that I thought there was probably not possible, as far as them living beneath the surface of the actual crust of the planet. And a lot of people, it's a theory that they have that they live inner Earth.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense, especially when you say what you just said there. You saw this craft come out of a lake that it could not have fit into. So is the chance that it came from beneath the lake, beneath the bottom of the lake, would make a lot more sense. And it kind of just takes me into this. So I had to say that because
I agree.
It's a point that when people talk about these things coming out of water, you never hear someone say and it came out of water that they shouldn't have been able to fit in. That's I think a clue to what it is that where they're at underneath the water.
It was very profound. And, you know, that you bring up such a good point. Yes, they could be living in the inner Earth, environment. The other possibility is, you know, if they can get here, you know, at faster than light speed, which they have to, they're interdimensional. They get here in a blink of an eye. They're just coming through portals. They're just coming through the other side of a wormhole, if you will. So it might have just been a dimensional portal there in the lake that it came through, right? And I have to speak about this for a second because I have been in many craft. And what I will say is, you know, when I was a kid, for instance, I was taken up into what looked like a traditional, you know, flying saucer back in the early 60s, I guess. And it was, you know, maybe the size of a Volkswagen. To a little kid, that looked like the size of a Volkswagen. I went up in it, and inside it was enormous, like LA.
Wow.
Seriously, it was a civilization. So are these actual craft, or are they simulations or holograms of craft, and they're taking us through portals into other civilizations or whatever, you know, or are the craft expandable? You know, are they beyond our physics? So, you know, when it shows up here, it's the size of a Volkswagen. When we go up in it, it's the size of LA. Who can say? Because we're these little bitty creatures with a tiny little, you know, brain that can't understand all of that. But I will tell you, I've had those experiences and it's amazing. And I will say one other thing. These craft, if you want to call them that, these spaceships, they're consciousness too. They're conscious. They are, sometimes they're melded with the consciousness of the pilot, if you will, or the beings who are in there, or they are consciousness themselves. And I have interacted with the craft itself, you know, as a being. So it's just like all these infinite things.
There is. I like the way your mind is working too, because that's where I go as well. And you made a lot of great points there. And one thing I will say that another place that I moved into recently, and I'll tell this because I've told the story before. I'll just really quickly. And you may agree. So with the sighting that I had, like I told you, it was like yours with the swarm.
Yeah.
One thing that I came out of that with is that these things seemed to be, I'd say probably each one, it was 47 of them, by the way, but each one was probably 5 feet, maybe if I had to guess, in diameter. Now, the way that they were doing this thing here in a cluster, and the way that they flew across the sky in a V formation, sort of like birds almost, but they kept shifting
that many times. Yeah.
And with the orbs as well, they almost seem to be organically alive.
Yes.
The actual craft themselves. And it takes me back to the movie Nope. I told someone that I sat in the theater. I was, everybody thought it was going to be this classic UFO story where the ship came and these beings were on the ship, but only to find out at the end of the movie, and spoiler alert, that the ship was an actual creature.
Mm-hmm.
And it blew my mind because a lot of people said, "Oh, I didn't like it." That was their immediate response. I sat in the theater as the credits rolled. I sat there for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Stunned.
I said, wow, it wasn't what I was expecting. But by the time I left the theater, halfway to the car, it hit me that what they were showing, and it really felt, I felt really good about the movie. So I said, what would make someone go so far off of what the belief of these things being physical craft to say that these things are alive? And then when you have these experiences, you kind of walk away with the same feeling that these things could be alive as well. And then we had Travis Mustos on, who talked about the clouds being covered for the craft, or that the clouds are the craft.
They're
and a lot of those things were put into the movie. And if you go back to Steven Spielberg with the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that movie was so on point with what the phenomena is that you figure someone had to tell him or give him this information. And then you walk away from Nope feeling possibly the same way, that if he went so far to the left with this idea of craft being physical creatures and being alive themselves, what information did he get? And I'm just on the ride with you, and it just feels like, we're going down the right path, and we're finding out more and more things that are just mind blowing about the phenomena.
Can I tell you one little tiny story? When I was 9, we moved to South Central Georgia from California, from LA area, and went from living in the big city to on the edge of this town, which was next to a major Air Force base. My dad was in the military at the time and then moved into the Justice Department afterwards, but he was always involved in the military. And so we lived at the edge of this like 60-mile pine forest, which was like heaven for a 9-year-old kid who just was, let loose. So one night my brother woke me up. He's a year younger than me, and this is in the movie. He said the woods are on fire. We have to go out there. Our place where our fort is on fire. And I don't know why I thought that was a good idea, but I got my clothes on. We ran out there, and what looked like a fire was a humongous mothership hovering over our little meadow that we played in and had our fort in. And I won't go into any more of that right now, but what I want to say is what I experienced later on, many years later, many years later, the first time I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind at the end, when the mothership comes, that's what I saw when I was a kid. That's what I went up into. Looked the same, sounded the same. We were standing on the forest floor and everything lifted up, like all the twigs and the pine cones and the stones came up in the air underneath that thing. And, you know, and we went up in it and did things, you know, and then the next morning when we woke up, we went back out there and there was around the meadow, it was a huge circle. It was all burnt out. It was like smoldering still. But my whole life after I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind for the first time and saw that, I thought, I was just in awe. I was stunned in the movie theater. I'm like, how did Steven Spielberg see that thing that I saw when I was 9 years old? It was exactly the same.
Yeah.
It did the music. It did everything.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I have a show on my own separate channel called The Social Dig, and we do this thing called Science Fiction and Science Fact Movie Edition. And the whole idea is to now that people understand the phenomenon is a real thing and these things are here, to go back and watch some of those movies that you used to watch that were science fiction and see them through this new lens, and you'll be just amazed how these things make you feel, knowing that this is a real thing. And Close Encounters is one of the ones where every time I watch it back, I'm like, they just nailed it. It's just every aspect,
every single thing.
And we're talking about a movie that's close to 50 years old. So it's definitely one of those ones that if you haven't seen it, please go back and watch it. And if you've seen it and it's been years, go back and rewatch it, and it just blows your mind. I do have, let me see. Okay, I do have a couple more questions here. I have Angels Are Alive asking, Debs, how many different types of ships, ET ships, do you remember being on, such as, for example, the ships that are metal ships, of morphine metal ships as ET?
There's a lot that, I mean, I don't have any, that's countless Angels Are Alive, but I will say some do look metallic, but it's living metal. It's crazy. It's living metal. I don't know how to say it any plainer. You know, if you sit down, it takes your shape. It's like it's holding you. And certain things will morph as you need them. If you need a space to lie down, it makes a space to lie down. One of the most incredible ships that I ever went on happened during one of those online global star teacher channeling things that I do. And they led us into a place where we could experience that. And we went into, and then I had a memory of, I've done this many times, up into a ship that looked like it was made out of liquid crystal. You could see everything. Like you could barely see the outline of the ship itself while you were outside of it and when you were in it, but you could see space and you could see the earth below and everything through every part of it. And yet it was mechanical, and it was consciousness, and it was this liquid crystal. It was incredible, and I just I can't put in words what it was. So I think they're made of many different things, and I think they show up in different shapes and so forth. You go back into ancient times and look at how they depicted UFOs in paintings and cave paintings and all of that, and how they looked in, the Middle Ages, and how they looked in the 50s, and now how they look. And so they change kind of often to how we're starting to evolve in our perception. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
Definitely. And we have a final question here. Before we let you go, we have light walkers. Very important question here. Can you have Deb state the dates of her women's retreats?
Oh, yes. I have to pull it up here, actually. And you'd think I would have it in my mind, but my mind is full of many things. I remember, I always quote or paraphrase Albert Einstein, who said that he could never remember his own home address because he didn't fill his mind up with such minutia, things that other people could remember for him. It's April 18th through the 21st. And it's in the North Woods of Wisconsin. So if you guys go to any of my social media pages or the website or anything, it's all on there. Just contact me and I'll be happy to send you to where you can get all the details, including where it is, because we like to have a safe space where people can't just barge in. But so and it's actually named Untamed Magic, but it's called BODY, which stands for Bear, Owl, Deer equals You. It's themed around the animals of the forest, so, and those aspects of strength, nurturing, grace, and wisdom.
All right. And that's at debsshakti.com.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay.
Kira.
Yeah. And Debs, awesome. I really appreciate you going the distance with us tonight. I had a great time talking to you and meeting you here.
Finally,
and I'm hoping, finally, and I'm hoping that we do this again very soon. And I'm hoping that we can get you to Reno because, oh man, I'll talk to you more about that. I think we all together can do something special. So, did you have anything that you wanted to leave the viewers with?
Thank you so much, Rob. Just thanks to everybody who was with us tonight and anybody who's watching it, at any time. Just know you're here on purpose. There's real good information for you here. But also know that I'm not special. All of you are special. All of you have these abilities. And if you want help in learning how to use them or open them up, please contact me or contact someone. There are many people who can help now. And if you've had an experience and you don't know what to do with it or you're afraid to talk about it, reach out to me. And if you don't resonate with me, I will send you to somebody who can help. There are so many people. Don't sit like our friend Susan Alloway, who's just writing here, who sat for years, or my friend John Yost, who sat for years without being able to speak about it. Once you do, your whole world changes. And I would just encourage you to be open and excited about life, because life is beautiful. And that's the main message they're trying to give us.
I agree. Well, Debs, definitely want to thank you for coming in tonight. I think this was a special broadcast, a great broadcast. And I'm just so glad that you joined us. Things aligned because we were supposed to do this. And I think we did it. So definitely want to thank you for coming in. I'm going to go ahead and get this show wrapped up, and I will be reaching out to you very shortly.
Thank you, my dear. Thanks.
All right. This has been Debz Shakti, guys. Thank you very much, Deb. Have a good rest of your night.
You too.
Thanks. All right, guys. So Debz Shakti, guys. Awesome show. Wow. I do appreciate everyone who came in and had a great time with us tonight. And I do appreciate Debs for going the distance with us tonight. Our guy for Saturday, Brian Bowden, is busy with the in-laws, and I joked with him. He knows what the joke is on the side. So maybe we'll have Brian back next week. It's going to be an awesome weekend, man. I hope everybody has had a great time thus far. Powerhouse show today, and I believe it's going to be another Powerhouse show tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Susie Hansen from New Zealand coming in. So I think this will be a weekend that goes down in the books. And just like Debs has a ladies retreat, this has been a weekend of just lady guests. And I think that's empowering in itself too. So you know what I mean? I think let's give a shout out to the ladies on that one. To Mothman, you cannot go to the retreat, man. You can't. I think Debs told you like twice, man, you can't go. But you can go to the SOR fan party in Reno, and I definitely hope to see you there, my good sir. And actually, maybe we're caravanning or doing something along those lines. So, Race Fan is suggesting that we all have a group hug. I mean, I'm not against that. Show up in Reno, man. Let's do the group hug thing. Let's channel excellent and positive and healing energies for everyone. It's this. I think Reno is really looking to be something that is more than just an event, and that's just me talking early. This will be my first SOR fan party, but I think that it's going to be, aside from us being able to meet you guys and vice versa, I think this is going to be an overall powerful, game-changing event. I think this one will go down in the books as something that helped the movement. And I think that's very important for all these shows out here that touch on this subject and that are pushing for confirmation to do things that move the needle, right? Do more than just talk about it. 2024 can be a year of people getting off their couches and putting their minds to work on how to get this thing to move. It's all our jobs to do so. And it feels good for me to come in on these weekends and on the work we do over at the Social Dig to kind of, have that feeling that you moved something, that you helped, manifest our ushering into this new place that we're supposed to go. You know what I mean? I think it's so powerful. And to be able to be in a position to help that happen is a blessing in itself. And I really do appreciate that. So let me go ahead and look at the chat here. Castle Dude is definitely giving it up, saying, hey, Rob G and SOR fan, Mothman is promoting the SOR or not Vegas party, though, SOR-Vegas party, I think is Reno. Is that the right link, Tim? I'm not sure. Christine saying, Rob, off topic, but you're a very good listener, communicator with our guests tonight, and always you ask good questions. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much, Christine. It's just genuine me, man. I'm not up here trying to be something that I'm not. I'm a human on this path of enlightenment and in the overall focus of trying to help bring this thing in. So I've been put in this place. It's not my doing. I've been led to this place, and I'm just seeing where else this path takes us. So I do appreciate that. And okay, yeah. Genuine you, I get it. Yes, sir. Okay. And Mothman says that is the right link. Okay, so it just says Vegas, but it should link you to the Reno party. I think this is going to be a big thing. Okay. Kira confirms that is the correct link. Great. Okay. Well, like I said, jam-packed, awesome show, guys. I do appreciate you all for coming by. And let me go ahead and bring up our super chatters for the night. We had Vaughn saying, hit the likes. So if you haven't done already, hit the likes. Thank you for your support of SOR, Vaughn. We had Kira I Am. Thank you with 1111. For everyone, remember who you are, a shining soul to share your love. I love you all. We love you back. Kira I Am. Thanks for your support of Spaced Out Radio. And then we had Carl Bittner, a.k.a. as Dave calls him, Human Carl, not to be confused with Alien Carl. This has been another knockout show, Rob. Thank you for having Debs on. And Debs, thank you for so unselfishly doing what you are doing. And I agree with that. And that's why I always make it a point to point that out, because the ufology gets a bad rap for there being grifters in this field, which there are, and paywalls are always thrown up everywhere. But then you can you can kind of see the people who are doing it for all the right reasons. And I believe Debs is one of those people, as I believe that, well, I know that's the path that I've been set on. And any others that I recognize as doing that, I always make sure to point out. So thank you for Carl for doing that. And thank you, Super Chatters, for going ahead and supporting the show tonight. Everybody here is a space traveler. So why don't you guys go ahead, do the next step and join the SOR Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 per month by joining our Patreon. Guys, we appreciate your support. To all our viewers and listeners across the globe, thank you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do and will always do what we do best. And what is that, you ask? I'm sure everybody knows. We own the night. You guys have a great rest of your night. Be back tomorrow. Susie Hansen will be our guest for tomorrow. It should be another great show. And if you're up and you're into talking about your experiences, you can join us right at the Social Dig for a little late night call-in tonight. So we're bringing it back. You guys have a great rest of your night. Take care.